It's Wednesday, May 23rd here at the West End Gun Club. It's just before 6 o'clock. I took the day off from work just to come out and do a little shooting because I haven't shot in a few weeks, and I was going to shoot this past weekend, but I got lazy because I've been really busy with work. I actually worked 2 weekends ago, technically, because I was at a class. I was at a 5-day course out of town, so I didn't really have a weekend. And so this past weekend, I just sort of relaxed and didn't do any shooting like I planned to because I was just trying to recover. So this morning I brought out the 6mm Creedmoor because I finally got a hold of some Reloder 16, so we're going to try that out. It's really quiet this morning. The gates were open because an RO was here, and I think he's going to be doing some work in the back ranges. I hear a little engine noise, so I think some guys rolling in right now. But we're going to go ahead and set up some targets before guys start shooting, if anyone else shows up.
Walking out. As you can see, I've set up my lab radar, but on the table or the bench, you see this case which has the MagnetoSpeed logos because I have a MagnetoSpeed V3. And for those who are wondering why I bought this thing, it's because one, I wanted to try them out, but two, I wanted to try it out with a chassis mounted system so it doesn't hook up directly to the barrel. It hooked like it traditionally does through these Velcro strap deal. But after I saw David Tubbs' video at the King of 2 Mile, or it was a Sniper's Hive video, but they interviewed David Tubb, where he had made a custom mount to hook up the MagnetoSpeed to his Tubb 2000 chassis. So when I saw Masterpiece Arms had come up with their own deal that hooked up the MagnetoSpeed to the MPA BA chassis, I decided to go ahead and splurge and try it out. That I already preset it at home, and hopefully I think everything's gonna be lined up and I won't shoot the bayonet because it does, this bayonet rides very close to the bore line, and you're supposed to run spacers to make it correctly offset because there's spacers that sit here, so it won't, it'll adjust where it sits along the bore line. So I think I got it all settled, so we're gonna have to just attach everything. And the one thing I found hokey with the MagnetoSpeed are the screws that you use for the spacers. Since you need to use the same spacer screws to hook up the actual bayonet to the MagnetoSpeed mount, it's just really small screws, and I'm not really a fan of them. It is what it is. I still prefer the lab radar based on this design of the MagnetoSpeed. MagnetoSpeed is obviously less expensive, but the lab radar is just a lot easier to set up, especially when you want to switch between guns, because each gun may have different, if you're going to attach it to your gun traditionally, bore lines are going to be different, so you may have to run different spacers, and do you really want to be at the range swapping out spacers? So pick your poison. I'll take the lab radar.
So I think I got it all set up, short of plugging in the unit. It runs on a 9-volt battery for this display. I'm going to go ahead and leave this stupid plastic deal on. Frankly, I probably should have read the manual before I came out here. But we'll play it by ear. So the sucker turns on immediately when you plug it in. It's a 2 gig memory card that comes with it. It's already in there. So I got the lab radar set up, MagnetoSpeed set up. We're gonna warm up the barrel. I think it's clean, and we're gonna shoot some known loads with Peterson brass and 41.0 and 41.2 grains. I think it's 41.2. No, 41.0. So 41.0. So we know this velocity, at least I recorded it earlier in previous testing. So let's get ourselves lined up here. And of course we got an error. But the lab radar worked fine. First shot of the day is 3069 feet per second with 41 grains, 4350 in Peterson brass. Second shot is 3073, which is actually really good. It's only 4 feet per second off from the first shot, but I'm still getting an error on the MagnetoSpeed. So it's not detecting. So we're gonna set the sensitivity on here. What's on the highest? So, oh, it's on the lowest. So we're gonna hit the highest sensitivity possible, max sensitivity of 11. Maybe that'll help it detect. Take our third shot here. Okay, this time around detected. So MagnetoSpeed says 3092, but my lab radar says 3079. It's quite a bit of a difference. 3086, the fourth shot. MagnetoSpeed says 3096. 3081 versus 3093. So this 5-shot group averaged 3077 according to lab radar, standard deviation of 8.7, extreme spread of 17. The MagnetoSpeed with a 3-shot group aggregate is talking 3093 feet per second average with a standard deviation of 2.2. So I'm not sure which one you want to go with here. Pretty interesting numbers. But we're going to go ahead and let it cool down just slightly, and we're going to start shooting that Reloader 15 ammo, or loads, or sorry, Reloader 16 with alpha brass. For all you 6mm Creedmoor shooters, you may or may not have seen both of my reviews of the Peterson brass and the alpha brass. They're both small rifle primer brass, native. You don't have to neck up or neck down for the 6mm Creedmoor. But the only difference is that the Peterson brass uses the smaller flash holes, the PPC style, which is going to be 0.059. I can't, should be on here. But anyway, small rifle primers with small flash holes, and this has the traditional, the Peterson brass has traditional 0.080 flash holes. So I found that actually alpha brass shoots really well, and you're getting tighter extreme spreads than with Peterson using the same reloading process that I'm using. So granted, reloading in general is going to be subjective to your processes, your procedures, your equipment, how well you can meter brass or meter powder. And since I'm using the same setup for all my testing, it's all comparative to my own reloading. So I've found that I could get better standard deviation, better extreme spread with the alpha brass over the Peterson brass. Not sure how much the flash hole comes into play here, but it seems like alpha brass is definitely more consistent. But alpha brass is more expensive than Peterson brass. And so I think Peterson's a good native brass to get if you want to shoot in matches and you're not going to be able to retain your brass. Whereas alpha brass in more controlled, like F-class style or bench rest style matches, probably want to go that route. Since you can retain your brass, you can almost guarantee that you're going to keep your brass. But right now, I have alpha brass, brand new, unfired. We're going to test Reloader 16, which I got my hands on through Brownells. I got a good deal on it, under $200 for an 8-pounder. So shipped, which is a good deal. So that's why I finally got it. And the reason why I was hesitant to get Reloader 16 is because locally it's very hard to come by. Surprisingly enough, 4350 is easier to come by. So I've got plenty of H4350, and I didn't want to extend myself to testing new powder that I can't get a hold of consistently. But I really wanted to try Reloader 16 with the 60mm Creedmoor because everyone keeps saying that it is good. So I've got 25 rounds loaded, 5 rounds each, starting at 39.8, going to 40.0, 40.2, 40.5, and 40.8. And this is all based off of stuff I found on the internet. So hopefully we're conservative enough that we're not going to cause any issues here or have any kind of failures, but I think we're loaded pretty low. So first round with 39.8 is only 30.28 feet per second. According to the lab radar, according to the MagnetoSpeed, it is 30.42, so we're a good 20 feet per second off. Pretty disconcerting that we have this much deviation between the lab radar and the MagnetoSpeed. So with the 5-shot aggregate on the MagnetoSpeed or the lab radar, we're talking an average of 30.23 feet per second with 39.8 Reloader 16. Standard deviation of 3.4, extreme spread of 9, which is really good actually. And then on the MagnetoSpeed numbers, we're talking 30.35 average, standard deviation of 4. And where's the extreme spread number on this thing? Does it not record that here? Weird. So during the rest of this vlog, when I do the when I talk about the average, standard deviation, extreme spread, I'm not going to include extreme spread for the MagnetoSpeeds, just because it's slow. So we'll do it after the fact. I'll do it in my article when I'm comparing the two, or what I'm going to probably write an article on this whole MagnetoSpeed setup that I have here. And so in that article, I'll go ahead and include the more details on the comparisons between the readings from the MagnetoSpeed versus the lab radar. .35, and the MagnetoSpeed recorded that at 46.23. Interesting. That's wrong. 30.35 versus 30.46. So with 40 grains of Reloader 16, we've got a average of 30.36, standard deviation of 1.1, extreme spread of 2 on the lab radar. I can't tell you what's on the MagnetoSpeed because it recorded one shot at 46.23 feet per second. I don't know what the anomaly was there, but it recorded a 4,623 foot per second round for shot 3. Here's a close-up of the menu system, and as you can see here, Shot 1, 30.49, shot 2, 30.49, then shot 3, 46.23. Totally blows the numbers. Obviously the average comes up at 33.62, which is completely off, but that really destroys it. So we'll just run those numbers by hand after the fact for a later article. .3051 on the radar. Wow. So 46.36 on the magnet. Another anomaly. Not sure what's causing that issue. So the stats for 40.2 of Reloder 16, we're talking an average of 30.53. Standard deviation of 6.8. Extreme spread of 17 on the radar. And I can't tell you what the stats are for the MagnetoSpeed because the fifth shot recorded 46.36 feet per second. So that's 4,636 feet per second. I'm going to try dialing down the sensitivity some. Not sure if that's having an issue or causing issues with the readings. Again, this is the first time I've used the MagnetoSpeed, so we'll give it the benefit of the doubt here. 72 on the radar, 83 on the magnet. So the stats for 40.5 of Reloder 16, we're looking at an average of 30.67, deviation of 2.8, extreme spread of 8. Pretty good. According to the MagnetoSpeed, we're looking at 30.78 average with an standard deviation of 3.0. 3090 on the radar, 3100 on the magnet. So far as stats go for 40.8, 40.8, Reloder 16, radar shows an average of 3093, standard deviation of 2.6, and extreme spread of 6. And the MagnetoSpeed is showing 3102 average with a standard deviation 2.6 as well. Here's a close-up of the whole setup. You can see the spigot mount right up front into the front of the chassis, which then connects to this rat adapter, as they call it, which is where the actual MagnetoSpeed itself clamps onto. And if I can get this thing to focus, you can see the whole setup here. And this is basically where I'm talking about, where you have spacers. Generally, when you hook this up to a barrel, there's spacers here, and then you clamp it to the barrel in order to adjust the height of the bayonet to the boreline. But I have this steel hooked up directly to the MPA MagnetoSpeed mount, and so without any spacers. So that's about as close to the boreline as I can get. I took the muzzle brake off when I measured this, and I think you kind of want to get a little closer if you can, but right now it seems like it's working short of those weird anomalies with those 4,000 foot per second readings. But in general, this is the setup. It was a quiet session here at the range. Just a couple guys showed up. They got the ROs working in the ranges around me, but other than that, had it all to myself. I'm just picking up my target. But we'll go ahead and show you what it all looks like. So this first group here, we're gonna go left to right, top to bottom, alternating rather. So this is the Peterson brass. This is 41.0. First shot of the day was kind of high, and then I leveled out right here. Then we started with the Reloder 16. This is the lowest one, 39.8, I think. It's a nice group right there. Not as tight as you can get, but it's pretty close. About half minute. 40 opened up a little bit, up and down deviation. 40.2 got really tight. Then 40.5 kept the the same tight group. And then that last one, 40.5, I got kind of wild. So the first shot was center, second shot dropped, third shot went high, and so I kind of just reset my bag and everything, and I fired the last 2 rounds right there. So I think this is where the group wants to sit, but as you can see, it dropped significantly from here. So I think this is kind of your node right here and here. So 40.2 to 40.5, and then, oh, sorry, 40, then 40.2. 40.5 is where the node just starts to dip. So you kind of want to stick around here and maybe here. So 40.2, 40 and 40.2. So I'll stick it right around here, maybe 40.1 to split the difference. But I think this is kind of where you want to be. And they're shooting pretty tight. I mean, I would say that's definitely less than half a minute. Could be a third of a minute. That's also about a third of a minute. So pretty good overall with the Reloder 16. I think the standard deviation and extreme spreads are pretty good with the Alpha Brass. But question is, do I really want to stick with, do I want to branch out to Reloder 16, or do I stick with H4350? Remains to be seen, but since I have lots of H4350, probably just stick with that. This is the first time I've used the MagnetoSpeed, and given what happened in this session, I'd actually say the MagnetoSpeed works quite well. Other than the fact that he had the 2 anomalous readings well above 4,000 feet per second, I just simply need to just review a lot of the nuances involved with the MagnetoSpeed. There are nuances with the lab radar, and it took me, it takes you a few tries to make sure you get everything down correctly, and I'm sure the same thing applies for MagnetoSpeed. So if you're looking for a lower cost entry for a chronograph that's not an optical, MagnetoSpeed's the way to go. Lab radar obviously is a few $100s more, especially if you compare it against the MagnetoSpeed's low tier model, which is I think under 200 bucks. This one is $379 retail, I believe, but I paid around 300 bucks or less because I had got it on a deal. There was a sale and I got a coupon, and it all stacked up, and it was a good entry point, or a good price point for me to even bother with this experiment. But as far as this whole setup with the MPA mounted MagnetoSpeed, it is a little chintzy. This does have some wobble, and it is kind of bent, or it's kind of angled down, so it doesn't come directly straight to the bore line. I'm guessing I can probably bend this whole deal, but I kind of want to avoid doing that right now. As far as the whole spigot mount setup, the spigot mount goes directly into the chassis, and so you have this thing here all the time, unless you want to take it out, because it is attached through some screws that go into the proprietary holes of the MagnetoSpeed's forend. Then the MPA chassis forend. And then use an MPA chassis or MPA MagnetoSpeed mount that hooks up to that spigot. Interesting setup, but all in all combined, you're talking $379 retail plus another $150, I think. Off the top of my head, I don't really recall, but $150 for, let's say, the spigot mount and the MPA MagnetoSpeed mount. I think that's what you need? Yeah, spigot mount, MagnetoSpeed mount. So you're well over 500 bucks, and that's the same price as a lab radar, basically. So if you're going to run a chronograph and you want to shoot multiple guns, lab radar is going to be easier, especially when you're talking about all the spacers you have to get involved with regard to the MagnetoSpeed, depending on what kind of bore contours you have, what cartridge or caliber you're shooting. It all matters. So I think the lab radar is a way easier setup. You just plug in, align your lab radar to the bore line, to the target, turn it on, and you're good to go. MagnetoSpeed, you do have to clamp it, and in spacers may or may not matter depending on different guns. Maybe it is fast, I don't know. But again, my setup is a little bit unique because I came here, I installed the MagnetoSpeed to the mount when I got to the range, so that added some extra time. A little more complexity, so maybe it's a little bit of a skewed opinion. But anyway, interesting setup to experiment with. I'm still going to continue experimenting with this whole setup because I think it's kind of cool to have this chronograph setup directly mounted to the chassis, and then I don't need to set up the lab radar. I can just pick this up and I can go shoot this. Granted, you don't want to run and gun with this thing because you got the bayonet just flopping around on the front end, but it's kind of cool that I can just carry this whole setup and shoot it into a nice prone, go in any prone position, anywhere, or bench position, and not have to worry about setting up a lab radar. I can just get the chronograph for every shot. So that's kind of cool. And that's the reason why I was intrigued by the setup when I saw, intrigued by a chassis or stock mounted MagnetoSpeed setup when I saw that David Tubb video, or the Sniper Side video with David Tubb at the King of 2 Mile. But anyway, I'm gonna probably do a little write-up of this with some photos, and just discussing my thoughts and opinions of it that I'm not really conveying right now in this vlog. But then you can go read that on my website at okfj.net. Anyway, I'm gonna go to pack up and try to get out of here, and maybe we'll take a tour of the back ranges, because they actually expanded the range at West End Gun Club recently. So we'll go take a look at that before we leave. Before we trek out from the range, I want to go ahead and just drive through the back ranges from the main line, just to show off the new facilities. They added basically 5 new bays. So they added 5 new bays just around the corner from the main line, and as you can see here, this is bay 1, and right now it's temporarily closed, but this impact area, or this berm, is pointing directly at the same impact area as the main line. So if you're shooting here while there's live fire on the main line, you're going to be clear of anyone. So it's shooting beyond the impact area, the direct impact area, so you're not going to be in the target area if you're shooting here. Or no one on the main line should be in the target area if you're shooting on this bay. But they added these new facilities or these new bays, because people complained that during the weekends that all the shooting matches like 3-gun, IPSEC, IDPA, they're all using up all the bays, so there's no one can shoot in the mornings on the weekends. So they added these new bays. So you can see we have Connex boxes or Connex containers with dirt filled into them as the dividers for each bay, and they have brand new impact berms for these bays. So it's really cool that we have these new shooting bays. So we have 5 new ones, and they renumbered all of them. So it starts from 1 through 5 here, up front, and it used to be 1 right past here, but now they're going to renumber it to 6. So that's the 5th bay, and we're going to go ahead and roll into the 6th. And I'm driving kind of slow because the speed limit here is supposed to be only 5 miles an hour. But this was 1, now this is 6, and yeah, it's kind of cool to have all these new shooting bays. But I'm gonna go ahead and wait till this tractor goes, the RO and the tractor moves past me. Let me go ahead and just let him go past me. Anyway, so all these are pre-existing bays, as you can see, and so I think now that with the 5 new additional bays, we now have 16 bays total, I think. But I'm gonna go ahead and drive up onto the rifle pad, because I'm not sure if there's anyone up there, and you don't want to go around the second way because you'll be going into their firing area. But I don't think anyone's actually shooting right now. Oh, they actually blocked it off. So yeah, you can't get to the area from here. Oh yeah, never mind. Sorry, you do have an opening. So there's no one on the firing pad here, so we're gonna go ahead and go down there just to explore. And you've probably seen these in past vlogs, but we have all these new bays. Oh, and not to mention, we have those 5 new bays, but they actually added 1 additional bay here, I believe. So this bay right here was always here, but it wasn't as cleared out as this. There was a bunch of trees in here and stuff and brush. But this bay right here is new, so they added this bay. So you have another spot right here, along with the ones on this side. So it's really cool that they have these new bays. So I think it actually goes up to 17 if I count this new bay, this other bay that I didn't remember. So yeah, we're going up to bay 17 here. So this is 16, and now we have 17. So that's really cool. And they're messing around with all this dirt here, rebuilding. They have all this dirt they're using for the impact area, or impact berms rather, for all these other bays. I think they extended this out a little bit. No, this is about the same distance as it used to be. So yeah. Anyway, that's the new facilities, or the extra facilities that they added here at the West End Gun Club. So if you're thinking about joining, and you've heard stories about people complaining that, oh, I joined, but then there's no way for me to shoot on the weekends because the matches are always taking up all the shooting bays, then definitely give it a reconsideration now that we've added extra facilities, and they've made an effort to mark the calendar when there's actually when the bays are being used, so that you know at what times in the morning that there are no bays or what bays will be available during a match day. And then the matches usually end, or at least the pistol matches that use up all the bays, they usually end around 1. So in the afternoon, you're fine. If you were trying to shoot in the morning, then yeah, it's understandable that you won't be able to get to a bay. But now that we have 6 new bays, that should help out a lot. And the only day of the weekend that uses up all these bays is the PBR match, that precision bolt rifle match, because they shoot across all the bays, or at least shoot across that first portion that we drove in onto, so you can't get in here. So yeah, I mean, this is really good. So definitely, if you're thinking about joining the West End Gun Club, definitely reconsider if you've been holding off because of some of the stories you've heard about bay access during the weekends. But then if you come on a shoot on a weekend or weekday, like I'm shooting today, all this was empty up until about 30 minutes ago, and right now it's just before 8. So if you're an early riser, you can definitely get to an available bay. And during the even on a Wednesday, if you wait long, I mean mid-morning up until maybe 11 or 12 o'clock, I can almost guarantee you're going to get access to a bay. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and drive out of here. Today is Wednesday, May 23rd. Today's my day off, and I'm done pretty early this morning. It's 8 o'clock. I'm going to get home. I'll unpack all my gear and try to run some errands because there's some stuff I want to do today. And I might actually watch Avengers because I'm finally caught up. Saw Black Panther, I saw Thor Ragnarok in the past few weeks, so I can actually watch Avengers and not be kind of lost. So might watch that today, may or may not. Definitely gonna watch Solo tomorrow. Already have my ticket. Granted, I have my expectations set very low for that. Honestly, I think the movie is not going to be that good, but we'll see. I still want to watch an opening night because it's Star Wars related, and if I keep my expectations low and it's actually pretty decent, then I'll feel good about it. Anyway, that's it for this vlog. I'll see you at the next one.
Small line came down.